and welcome back to another weekly What I Watched. And this week has mostly, I think, been TV shows. We do have a few movies in there. I was going to do a standalone Come With Me review for Doctor Strange, which we saw this week, but I think everyone and their dog was doing it, so I thought, nah, let's not bother. So I'll let you know my thoughts on that as well this week. So let's get round to what I watched last week. Okay, before we get in, excuse me, to what I've watched this week, if I'm a little bit more scatty than usual and it takes something, so I'm going to be that. It's a very high pain day. I've had some painkillers. It's like really bad rainstorms here in Ireland, which completely kicks off my chronic pain. So we're feeling it a little bit today. So if I'm a little bit just odd, that's what it is. So let's get started. Let's get the old screen recorder on. And we kicked off the week with The Thing About Pam. Okay, so this is a TV series. I think there were either 6 or 8 parts. Apologies, I'm not entirely sure. So this is actually a true story that I personally had not heard of. This is a story of Pam Hupp, who is involved in a murder investigation. Her best friend is found murdered. The best friend's husband is arrested, questioned. There is a lot of questions around who's responsible. And she is very much embroiled in the middle of that whole investigation. And this is a true story. This is a very interesting story, and it's one I would actually quite like to cover and talk about, because I'll obviously, with my series of based on a true story, this would be perfect. I really enjoyed this. Reese Witherspoon in this has to wear loads of prosthetics, and just is almost unrecognisable, almost. But she is fabulous. I love the fact that she's one of those actresses that's willing to get stuck into a role, like Charlize Theron in Monster, and just isn't remotely bothered about her appearance, wants to give the best to the role. She was fabulous. I've since Googled, looked up who Pam Hupp is, who I wasn't aware of, and she has done an absolutely fabulous job. So if you're into true crime, I would recommend it. Now, I think I spoke about it last week, and I did speak about the irreverent tone of it. I don't think I'd finished it at that stage. Apologies if I had. I don't think I had. But I have finished it. I really enjoyed it. Once you get used to the weird sort of almost dark humour tone about it, I would say I thoroughly enjoyed it. I gave it a 3.5 out of 5, but it is kind of, I'm like the demographic that's going to love this kind of thing. On the third and finally, I went to the cinema to see The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent, that I keep calling The Massive Weight of Unbearable Talent. I have no idea why. So, Nick Cage, it's no secret, I'm a big fan, I love him. I knew from the trailer I was going to love the movie. When Aaron from Screen Stars did his review, me and Aaron would be big Nick Cage fans. I knew from what he said I was going to love the movie. Obviously, I think I did a review on this, so I won't go into detail as to the plot. I really enjoyed this. I think Nick Cage is hilarious when he wants to be. I didn't love it as much as I thought I would, but I did really enjoy it. I would have preferred if they'd concentrated more on that weird zany humour that we had at the start, and took out the serious sort of part of it, took out the real sort of, took out the main crux of the story, which is not saying much, but I just loved the silliness that was in it. I loved him standing himself up. I found all that hilarious. I don't know, I was a bit taken out of it by the middle section, but I would say if you're a big Nick Cage fan, you will enjoy this. If you're not a Nick Cage fan, I don't probably think it's going to be for you. I would wait until it comes out on streaming or another way that you can watch it. So, where are we? On the same evening, I watched Hold Your Breath, The Ice Dive. Now, I like watching anything documentary-wise, true life, true crime, any sort of documentaries, I will watch it. And this is a story of a woman, Johanna Norblad, and she wants to break the world record for the amount of distance that you can swim under the ice, underwater. And anybody knows that any amount of time exposed to that is almost life-threatening. Her record, she held the highest female record, which I think was 50 meters, and the longest male record was 80 meters. She was determined that she was going to beat the longest male record. And I'm like, are you mad? I'm all for equality, I'm all for feminism, but biologically, you can't deny the fact that men are going to be stronger than women because they have the physiology that we don't have. They have a larger lung capacity, all this kind of thing. But this is the story of this woman's attempt to beat that record, and this woman has balls of brass. She may be a woman, but she is a ballsy woman. So yeah, it's quite short, 40 minutes. It's on Netflix. It's a documentary, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. So yeah, I would recommend. 3 out of 5. On the 5th, not on the 5th, but I finished on the 5th, The Dropout. So this is, let me get this girl's name, I always forget it, Amanda Seyfried. She stars as, and I've forgotten the woman's name, Elizabeth Holmes. So this is the lady that invented Theranos. Is that what it's? Yes, Theranos, which is a device where you prick your finger, you've one single drop of blood, and that can be tested at home for any amount of range of different things. And it was innovative in the medical community. She was like cited as being the next Steve Jobs. She was like everybody, all the women in the, you know, that community were looking up to her. Oh my god, the youngest CEO. But it was all a lie. If you're in the US, you probably know who this woman is. I wasn't actually aware of her before watching this. I do think Amanda Seyfried was fantastic in it. The real woman has... Okay, now that my mum has phoned to get me to sort out my dad's MOT for the car and give me a shopping list, let's get back to it. Honestly, I should have a video of bloopers with the phone ringing, because I swear to God, every single time I sit down to do these, the phone rings, and it's always my mum. Oh, and breathe. Okay, so The Dropout. So yeah, I enjoyed it. I think Amanda Seyfried did a really good job with it. She got the lady she was playing absolutely spot on, and I had to just put the fire back on because it had gone out by the time she'd stopped talking. Honestly, you can hear the little crackling of the fire. Well, you maybe can't, but it's on, and Dobby is enjoying herself right in front of it right now. So The Dropout, yep, recommend it. 3.5 out of 5. I did find it a bit slow going in places. I think because I wasn't massively interested in the subject matter. That sounds awful, but it was a lot to do with politics of companies and businesses and women in business, and it wouldn't be my sort of like something I find intensely interesting, but 3.5 because it was a fabulous performance. Okay, and on the 6th, okay, this is, my brain's not reminding me if this is on Netflix or Prime. I think it's on Netflix. 4 Hours at the Capitol. Obviously it doesn't need any explanation. This is a documentary about the storming of the Capitol, sort of egged on by Trump because he thought that he had been he should have won and they didn't count the votes right. This is really, really interesting because this actually follows into Capitol building itself. There's probably been a lot of this in the news in America, so you've probably seen most of it. In the UK, we do get little bits, little glimpses, but this follows the entire thing. It follows them evacuating all the politicians. It follows the panic. It follows how the police felt during it. It actually shows, there was one of the protesters that was shot, and it shows that. It doesn't show anything graphic, but it does show, you hear the shot, you see her fall, and then it cuts. And obviously we see the aftermath of people around her trying to save her. We see some horrendous treatment of a police officer by what can only be described as a mob that close in on him and actually get his taser and start tasing the base of his neck, the top of his spine, and they would have killed him. And it was really obvious from what he was going through, and he pleaded with them. He said, "I've got kids," and one of the guys in the group must have took pity on him, and he managed to half carry him. This guy was just not in a good way, back to one of his colleagues, and he's been left with severe PTSD. It goes into different people's experiences of the day, including interviewing the protesters themselves, who felt perfectly warranted in what they were doing. I personally think the whole thing's disgusting. I'm all for peaceful protest, but what happened there was wrong on so many levels, and I think a lot of people that just wanted to peacefully protest, even though I don't agree with what they were protesting about and stuff, it's a democracy, he didn't win, deal with it. I don't agree with what they're protesting about, but I do support the right to peaceful protest. But what happened there wasn't peaceful protest, and I do feel that people that wanted to come out and protest peacefully were caught up in this. And It was a really interesting documentary. I would have liked to have. I felt there was a bit too much attention given to the protesters and not enough given to the police and the politicians inside, the people that were just trying to protect other people. I don't know, but yeah, it was interesting. 3 out of 5. On the 7th, we went to the cinema to see Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. I don't know if I need to actually show you. There's other people's scores. I'm sure you've watched a lot of reviews from a lot of people and you know what a lot of people think of it. I was going to do a review for this. I'd done the whole go into the cinema, film in the cinema, but I didn't do the review after. So I'm going to see this again on Saturday because my son's friend has hired out a screen in the cinema and this is what's showing, but we couldn't wait a week to see it. So we went to see it weekend pass. We all really enjoyed it. My son, who's 11, enjoyed it a lot. He thought it was amazing. 9.5 out of 10, he said. I would come in at an 8 out of 10 for this one. I did really enjoy it. I think for me, the horror elements really elevated the movie. I loved the horror elements and it's made me think, right, I need to watch What If. My son's been nagging the hell out of me. I need to see What If. I need to check if What If is suitable for kids. I'm not sure if it's an adult cartoon, so I need to look into that. I wouldn't be like particularly bothered with my son watching most things up to a 15, but if it's really, you know the way some animation can be really adult, I don't want him watching that. So I will look into it and see if he can watch it, but apparently loads was taken from What If, the whole, well, I don't want to give any spoilers. But yeah, the horror elements were amazing. The special effects were spot on, which you would expect with Sam Raimi being involved. There was a couple of cameos, one of which I found out from a lovely commenter on someone else's videos, which, to be honest, I wouldn't have known who this person was playing. I don't read the comics, so it wasn't a big spoiler for me. There is one cameo that I loved to see. That wasn't spoiled. I didn't know that was coming up, and it's like, that's awesome. I love that. And that cameo is also part of the end credits. There are 2 post-credit scenes, so I think maybe one mid, one post, so wait for those. So yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed it. I thought I would like it a little bit more than I did. I thought they could have made more of the multiverse. They could have went into more different realities, or more, whatever the word is. They could have made a bit more of it than they did, and they could have even put at least another half hour onto it as far as I'm concerned. So yeah, I enjoyed it. I do like Benedict Cumberbatch in that role. I've never been the biggest fan of Wanda, so, you know, maybe that's what's taking it down a bit for me. But yeah, I did enjoy it. I think most superhero fans will really enjoy it. I think I'd give it a 3.5. Okay, so before I talk about this series, when I click to this next page, it's going to give spoilers in the little bit of blurb, and I'm going to tell you the basis of the story because I think it's important to know it before you know if you want to see it. It's a true story. You probably know this story. If you're in America, you'll definitely know this story. It's a very famous true crime story, but if you want to go and watch this with no knowledge, I would say I really enjoyed it. I would really recommend it, but from this point, I am going to start talking about what happens in the story. I'll put a timestamp in when I've finished talking about this, so if you don't want to know anything about this, skip on to this time. Okay, so we're all here, we know the story, or we want to know what happens. So, as it says here, inspired by the case that shocked the nation, the controversial case of Michelle Carter, who was convicted in 2017 of involuntary manslaughter for encouraging the suicide of her then boyfriend via texts and phone calls. So that's what we cover. This is a story that I saw a documentary on a long time ago, and I've always been just really shocked by it. This girl does positively encourage this boy to take his life, and he has had suicide attempts in the past, which were, you know, when people do it and it seems like it's a cry for help, and they do something and then they immediately seek help to not die. And it seems this boy has a lot of issues. The argument is, if this girl was not there, would he have followed through with this? I don't personally think he would have done. He did have a lot of issues for sure, and he probably would have went on in the future to maybe make more attempts, but I don't know. But when you see, and it shows you these texts that were sent, how this series plays it out is, sometimes you see the text on screen, but I think the makers did realise that that's a bit you don't want to be sitting watching an entire series squinting to see text. So what they do is they play it out like it's actually happening. So they put the two people together in a room having the conversation and almost put it as something going on in her mind. So that's how they play out a lot of these text messages, just to make it a little bit more interesting for the viewer. So this girl goes to court and it does end up being convicted. Now, I really enjoyed this because it gave a completely separate side to it. Gave like a window into the whole situation. The documentary I watched very much, now I'm going to say vilified this girl, and what she did was very, very wrong, was just incomprehensible, was wrong. But we get to see real issues that she was dealing with in her life all over the place. She actually did feel that this boy that she was in love with, and I don't doubt that she was in love with him, he was going to kill himself and nothing was going to change his mind. And it very much starts with her sort of like, why would you want to do this? To him saying, nothing you are going to say is going to change my mind. Why will nobody support me in wanting to do this? And she almost feels like she's doing the right thing by supporting his want to take his life. As we get further down it does seem like she's very much almost bullying him into doing it, and it's in the documentary it was very much put across as black and white, and you saw it and you thought, oh my god, this girl is a complete monster. When you watch this, what she did is none the worst. What she did is still just as bad, but you get to see the background that led to it, the problems she was dealing with, the psychological issues, the confusion, the potential effect of medication she was on her like decision-making abilities. It's very interesting. I really enjoyed it. I know some people find this quite slow, that maybe thought it should have been shorter or it could have been a movie. I personally loved that it went into a lot of detail because, again, I'm the target audience, true crime, I'm really interested, and this got into the proper crux of them, their life, their friendships, their school, their family, everything. I thoroughly recommend it. I give it a 3.5 out of 5. And finally, The Staircase. Okay, now only 3 episodes of this have been released. They were released all on one go, and then each of the following episodes will be released weekly. So this again is a very, very famous case. This follows Michael Peterson and his wife Kathleen. I even know the names by heart. I know this story so well. There is no truth without lies. An exploration of the life of Michael Peterson, his sprawling North Carolina family, and the suspicious death of his wife Kathleen Peterson. Now, just so I can concentrate on talking to you, I'm switching that off. So, very famous case. This I would thoroughly recommend. Now, this may go on to be really interesting. Colin Firth has been given the role of Michael Peterson in this. Now, I've forgotten the actor's name, but you know the guy from Scrubs who plays the big buff, really cross, angry doctor? And he tends to get like a lot of military type roles. He would have been ideal for this. I will try to look his name up and put it on screen. Maybe he didn't want to do it, maybe they didn't feel he was right for the role, but my god, I feel he would have been perfect. But Colin Firth has been given the role. This is the story of a crime author, who I will say from my point of view is a really unlikable individual, who's very arrogant, who's very opinionated, but the question is, did he or did he not kill his wife? Was he responsible? Now, there's a documentary called The Staircase, which is on Netflix, and I would thoroughly recommend you watch it because it's probably the best true crime documentary I've ever personally watched. There's another one, I think it's called Jinx. It's fabulous as well, but this one, The Staircase, is probably my favourite documentary concerning true crime. So cannot wait to see how this I know how it pans out, but I can't wait to see what they do with it. Toni Collette is actually in this as Kathleen Peterson. Now, most of her story is clearly going to be told in like flashback because she dies at the start of this. So I remember watching this documentary, and I'm talking about the documentary on Netflix. The thing on my listing is the series, is the dramatization. But this documentary, I cannot recommend enough you watch it. It follows Michael Peterson, his family, in his home in the aftermath of what happened. There are some photographs which are very disturbing. There are the photographs of Kathleen's body at the base of the stairs. There are autopsy photographs of injuries to her skull and scalp and things. So if that sort of thing is not something you want to see, maybe avoid it. If you're like, ridiculously intrigued about true crime like me, then you will love it. So basically, Michael and Kathleen were outside. They were having a few drinks. Kathleen went in to go up to bed early because she had a phone call the next morning with work. And when Michael came in, he found his wife dead, almost dead at the bottom of the stairs, and there was a lot of blood around her head area. There's the real 911 call played in the documentary, which is perfectly recreated by Colin Firth in the dramatisation. I know that call inside out, and he's so good at replicating it. So basically, the entire documentary and this entire series is based around, did Michael Peterson kill his wife, or was it an accident? This is the only true crime case where I can't make my mind up. There are other mitigating factors that come to light later, which I'm not going to tell you. But the question is thinking someone's not particularly a nice person enough to make you think they committed this crime? I don't like Michael Peterson at all. He just is a thoroughly unlikable individual, but I always came down on the side of not thinking he did this. Just because you think, oh, you know, I don't quite like you, doesn't mean that you can equate that to him having done this crime. But it's one of those things where I wouldn't be surprised either way. My mind says he didn't do it, but if you told me that it was found that he did do it, I wouldn't be unduly shocked. I think it's the only true crime story that has really torn me and really made me think and really made me like, oh my god, you know, did he, didn't he, what about this, what about that? It's so interesting. The whole family is torn apart by this. There's some kids that support him and some kids that don't. Sophie Turner's in this also as one of his daughters, Sansa Stark from Game of Thrones. It's so interesting, the whole case. Now, I don't know how the drama will play out. At the minute, 3 episodes in, it is a bit slow. The documentary was just as slow, but it was more interesting. I am enjoying it, but I'm not absolutely loving it, which I thought I would do. I would recommend personally to wait till it's all finished, which I wish I had have done, but I was too excited because this is one of my favourite stories. That sounds so wrong to say something is, well, you know what I mean, it's what I find the most interesting. But yeah, I would recommend you check out the documentary on Netflix. It's called The Staircase, which incidentally is the same name as the dramatisation, but check it out, it's so interesting, guys. So what else this week? I've been watching Ghost What's It Adventures with Zach Bagans, if that's how it's pronounced. It's really good to help me sleep. I always get really tired of watching it. The bits where everything goes really quiet, I start to like doze off. And I'm like knackered and I'm dozing, and then somebody shouts or screams and that I'm like, oh, out of my skin. So yeah, there is that. So what else? Apart from that, I can't think of anything I've been watching religiously. I've taken to thinking, should I tell you what I'm doing in Assassin's Creed Valhalla each week, or is it that boring you'd lose the will to live? I'm considering putting in a tiny little clip each week of what's going on right now. At the minute, Ivor, my Viking, and his clan are burning someone's supplies and killing spies to try. We're going to take over a castle because they've got my brother, who incidentally I'm having an affair with my brother's wife. We're going to take over the castle and try and save him, but he's had his hand cut off, and it's like, is he alive? Is he dead? So Ivor the Viking and his merry men are going to go in and try and save his brother, Sigurd, I think it's called. So yeah, that's what's going on in Valhalla, in Assassin's Creed, and I'm trying to think, there's nothing else coming up that I'm massively excited about. I'm going to see Doctor Strange again on Saturday. What else? The one movie I'm really looking forward to is The Black Phone. Seriously, it's just everything about it looks exactly up my cup of tea, I was going to say. Up my street, so I'm looking forward to that. But yeah, that's about the crux of what I've been doing this week, folks. Now, I've no idea if I mentioned this in this video. I know I did. I have a channel where I just vlog, which is basically just my life diary kind of thing, and I know I spoke about it there. Don't think I did here, but hopefully some of you may have seen my community tab about Jools. Jools Downing is a lady in the YouTube community who does video reviews. I did link her video a couple of weeks ago. on my channel. And Jamie Powell, who you'll have also heard me speak about, did a video going back to the 4th of May. And unfortunately, Jools was involved in a house fire. Her little flat went on fire. She was rushed away from the scene in critical condition, was in a breathing machine and in a coma. Her 3 cats, who are precious to her, probably the most important thing to her, didn't make it, unfortunately. And just the whole situation's just terrible. Jools has actually regained consciousness. She is still on a ventilator. She has been told about her cats, and Jamie said it was hard. It was very difficult. So Jamie's keeping us all updated with how Jools is doing, but it's a fellow creator, guys. It's someone else in the community. It's someone else that, you know, a smiley person that brings a lot of joy to a lot of people, who's going through the worst of the worst right now. Obviously she's lost everything. She's lost her cats, she's lost her home. All of that's up in the air. They don't know what's going to happen when, you know, she recovers. So hopefully watch this space, folks. I'll be watching Jamie's profile closely to see any updates. But as a movie community, we want to try to maybe set up a GoFundMe to try to do something for Jools, whether that be to help her, you know, replace some things, whether that be to buy, I don't know what, that would be up to her friends and family to decide. But it's something that I think as a community, you know, we need to be there for one another. And I just, you know, wanted to share the word with people that watch my videos also. So, you know, it's something it's been playing on my mind a lot, I know, and a lot of other people's that were close to Jools. I never actually met Jools, I just knew her through YouTube. But yeah, it's upsetting. It's an upsetting situation, folks. So yeah, I will probably continue to update folks through my community tab, because I know my videos are a bit long, and I don't feel, I would feel very hypocritical doing a video just about Jools, because I didn't know Jools very well. Jamie is very, very close to Jools, so it's, you know, he can do videos. He knows everything going on. He's in touch with her family and stuff. So I wouldn't feel right doing a video on my own. I just would feel that was a bit much for me to be doing. People would think, who the hell does she think she is talking about this? She didn't know her very well. But, you know, I do want to encourage other people to like, be kind to, I will do what Jamie did and put a little link in my description, and if you just popped over to that and put a little message, get well soon. Even better if you click a subscribe on her channel, just something, a tiny, tiny little thing to make her smile. You know, for something nice, you know, when, you know, the massive situation she's going through. I know it seems very small, but it's a tiny little thing that people can do, even if you don't know her, to just go over as a human being and wish another human being, you know, back to health, back to, you know, recovery, wish her well. Yeah, that would mean a lot, guys. So, yep, I will leave it on that, folks. I will keep you updated via my community tab. If you're subscribed to Jimmy Powell, which if you're not, you should be. He's awesome. I will link him also in the description. And we'll all be there to support Jools and do what we can from our different areas of the world for her. So, yeah, thanks for watching, guys. I shall be back next week with another What I Watched. Over and out from Lacey Lives.